For more than 160 years, one San Antonio family has helped shape the city we know today. And chances are, you've seen their work without even realizing it.
If you go throughout San Antonio, down to the courthouse, different places, and you look up, you may see an exposed beam that says from Ed Steves and Sons.
My grandmother would always say, how are you going to change my world and make it better? And I think all of us have been raised with forefathers that have given back to the community so much.
But this family was more than just a lumber supplier.
Uncle Walter escaping a Nazi prisoner of war camp.
In this episode of Remember the Alamo City, you'll meet the Steves, a family that's done their part to make sure that this city looks the way it does.
We're temporary stewards of a legacy that was started by our great-great-grandfather.
Not just on the outside, but on the inside as well. Steves and Sons is the oldest millwork manufacturing company in the United States, just recently celebrating 160 years of operation. And like almost every now successful company, it took time.
In 1849, our family came over from Barben, Germany. They had sent Johanna to do a scouting trip, but they came over on the Barmen. It was a trip that took 12 weeks. They left Barmen and landed in Indianola, and then moved from Indianola to New Braunfels, and then ultimately moved to Comfort, Texas in 1852, and then to San Antonio in 1866 when they founded our company.
It started with an idea from the original Steves.
Edward Steves, whose portrait is behind you, was the original founder of the company. And when he moved to Comfort before the Civil War, he had bought a thrashing machine, and he would go from yard to field to field, cutting and they would take that to market. And ultimately, because of the Civil War, he had the only machine. So he was able to stockpile a little bit of money, and that's when he moved to San Antonio in 1866, and he parlayed that thrashing machine into a lumber yard. He would go to East Texas and buy lumber from the lumber yards in East Texas and bring it to San Antonio.
Where did they live? We might have passed it by a time or two.
But when they moved to San Antonio, they moved to the King William area and built a house that was for a long time known as the Steves homestead.
The family says Edward had his own views he stood by.
The German settlers who came originally were not proponents of slavery. Some referred to them as the free thinkers. They were not for the Civil War. And so Edward Steves, when he would do this work, would not collect Confederate currency. He would only collect gold. And that enabled him to parlay that into, as Edward pointed out earlier, into a lumber company that has since transformed itself into a national millwork manufacturing facility.
By Edward's side was his wife, Joanna.
Well, he died at a relatively early age, and she ended up managing the company for almost 40 years. So she was quite a woman all by herself.
It didn't take long before Steves and Sons' work was seen throughout the city.
Well, interestingly, that was Ed Steves and Sons, and you'd see lumber that people built homes or businesses with throughout San Antonio. And if they're renovating, you'll find these pieces of lumber that say from Ed Steves and Sons, one of which is behind us here. And each one you see is a little different and has a little bit of a different handwriting on it. And the reason for that is they would stack the lumber on a cart, and that cart would be pulled by a mule. And when they had it all ready to go, a guy would go right from Ed Steves and Sons on the lumber. So as it was going down the road, people knew where to go get some lumber from. If you go throughout San Antonio, down to the courthouse, Pearl Stables,
I'm sure there's a number of other spots.
City Hall.
But the Steves family didn't just help build the city, they helped lead it.
So our grandfather had five sons, and Edward and I are the children of the fifth son, Marshall Steves. One of the sons was Sam Bell Steves, who I was named for. He had 5 girls, and he was mayor of the city of San Antonio for a period of time.
But the family's biggest impacts may have come outside the office, through San Antonio's most recognizable traditions.
Well, Hemisphere was in 1968, and our father was the president of Hemisphere. He raised the money to build the the Tower of the Americas and actually built the Tower of Americas, and then ended up continuing to be the figurehead of Hemisphere.
So this is the foundation of the Tower of Americas. And you can see it must have been down in a pretty deep hole getting that set up.
And most San Antonio of all, Fiesta.
But this sort of a fun dress, but of course there's over 100 participating member organizations that comprise Fiesta, and a couple of them are the Texas Cavaliers, and the other is the Order of the Alamo. And every year the Order of the Alamo selects a queen, elects a queen, and one of the queens was Gloria. So that's sort of fun for Gloria.
Once a queen, always a queen.
Yeah.
My godmother, Julie Crossell, told me that. So. And it's great because Fiesta is one of our major economic drivers that drives San Antonio for the rest of the year. And organizations that my parents, or my uncle and my father are part of, and my cousin Trace, the Texas Cavaliers, raises money that gives back so much. And I think talking about legacy and giving back to our community, all these great organizations do so much that enable our city to continue on and really help other people.
For any company to remain relevant for more than 160 years, there had to be something that made them stand out.
When we started, when my brother and I started, we had 40 competitors. Now we're down to 3 or 4 maybe. It really goes back to the original motto of the company, which was quality, service, and value. And if you keep those in mind, you're always going to come out on top. And our customer is always first. If we tell you it's going to be there on Monday morning, it's there on Monday morning. High quality. And unfortunately, when you're selling commodity products, which is what we sell, sometimes that can be difficult, but it's what's differentiated us from our competition.
And while the Steves family's impact can be seen all across San Antonio, this family wants their legacy to go beyond the past, which is a reason they wanted to share their story through an exhibit at the Whitty Museum.
Well, the Whitty came to us with this concept. Gloria's been heavily involved with the Whitty, for a long time, and we were able to put together some of the pieces, parts and pieces that we hold dear. And the Whitty's done an incredible job of turning it into a great story. Have it be the story of Edward Steves coming over here on the Neptune, or Uncle Walter escaping a Nazi prisoner of war camp by convincing a guard to bring him an officer's uniform so they could steal an airplane and leave. That
True story.
really happened.
And this is the story about how he befriended a German guard. Our Uncle Walter spoke fluent German. He borrowed a German uniform, put it on, went to the airport and said, "Bring me my plane." He hopped in a plane and flew off. And he brought that guard with him. And it ended up the guard and his family moved to San Antonio and were good friends with him for years and years. Yeah. Well, it should have been a movie. Yeah, it would have been quite a movie. The Great Escape.
And like any good exhibit, it starts from the very beginning.
Well, sort of an interesting fact that few people know is that when they came over, they were on a boat called the Neptune, and other families from San Antonio were also on that, including the Tips family, who own and operate Mission Funeral Homes here in San Antonio.
And are dear friends of ours. Yeah.
And even though the exhibit highlights the Steves, they want everyone to know that their contribution to the Alamo City wasn't just them.
And then I was mentioning this guy, Lupe de la Garza. And this is him right here at, I guess, age 93. He was with us, let's see, this tells us back here, 71 years. Quite a guy, what a gentleman. They are family.
If you think about, you're talking about families that built San Antonio. That's sort of the premise of the conversation. Those team members that are here, and not just in San Antonio, but particularly ones in San Antonio, they built San Antonio with us as members of the Steves family, and we really feel that way about it. It's wonderful to have all the folks with us. We didn't do any of it alone.
And despite their storied history, they believe their family isn't special.
We're not the only family in San Antonio that could have a display like this. My dad mentioned a number of families that were impactful back then, and you can think of families that are impactful today. The Holtz and what they're doing downtown is going to improve this city for generations. It's going to be a quantum leap for San Antonio.
Now, through the Witty exhibit, they're sharing that story with the city that they helped shape.
My grandmother would always say, how are you going to change my world and make it better? And I think all of us have been raised with forefathers that have given back to the community so much.
Look at the impact, and I think I echo what Gloria was saying. When you were raised under our grandfather, he really did change San Antonio, and Hemisphere really changed San Antonio. My grandmother would refer to, she said San Antonio was a cattle town until it got noticed through the Hemisphere process, and that brought us the spurs, brought us all of a number of other great things that we enjoy today.
We're temporary stewards of a legacy that was started by our great-great-grandfather, and we don't take it lightly. And our father didn't take it lightly, our kids don't take it lightly, and hopefully our grandchildren won't as well. And they will be temporary stewards of a company that's 200 years old, 40 years from now.
But the Steves family believes their story is still being written.
My cousin Trace and I proudly tout that we're 6th generation owner operated, and we have the 7th generation at home ready to step into our roles someday.
Tomorrow isn't going to look like yesterday. You constantly have, and we do have competitors. While they're less competitors, they're bigger. I think that Gloria and Trace need to always be thinking outside the box and be thinking about ways that we can innovate and improve.
I know my grandfather would be very proud of everything that you, Uncle Sam and Daddy had built with the company. When Trace and I started, we expanded to an exterior door division and the wooden door division, steel and fiberglass. That was the beginning. And now with these new operations, what y'all built has really changed everything. I know your daddy would be proud.
My hope is that if a young person comes in and they see this, they're inspired to go change the world and make it better, and because they can.
At the Witty Museum, I'm Marcus Risen.